Hey everyone, it's Christine here. I just got done with a really amazing, insightful, and revealing coaching session. I wanted to sort of summarize and share some tools for families who may have missed it today. We talked a lot about shame. And this has been coming up for me a lot. We've been thinking about and talking about triggers and what's under the iceberg, what's the root cause of many of our triggers as parents. And even our tantrums. Our tantrums look different than our children's tantrums, but we have them, right? Anytime we're in that red brain state where we're not able to think, we're not able to learn, we're not able to be mindful, we are having a little tantrum. And that's okay. It's totally normal. But our job in that moment is to help to bring us down to this place where we can learn and practice skills that we're attempting to put in place to change these cycles of toxic shame. So today I want to talk a little bit about shame, where it might come from, how it's not helpful, and then how you might start shifting that shame a little bit for yourself. We all have a shame story. So I started the coaching session and it's a full 90 minutes. So if you want to go watch it, it's in the modules. I started the coaching session asking everyone to introduce themselves and then tell us about their shame story. And I took notes and had lots of interesting things come up. There was the I'm not emotionally available and I'm for my child when they were an infant. And I'm still feeling guilt about that and thinking that's the problem with our attachment or our relationship. Some parents really struggle with comparing their children to other children and feeling some shame about the fact that they're not where they should be. Other parents said that leaving their babies and going back to work early and not being physically available is still really triggering for them. Deep down, that's this thing. I was a terrible mom. I made a bad choice. And there's this shame root holding them back from stepping into parenting powerfully. What else do we have? Oh, shame against just what other people think, or shame about what other people think about your parenting when they see your kids' behaviors, right? When your kid's having a tantrum in the supermarket or is really struggling with behaviors at school and you are taking this in as being a bad parent. I know one of the biggest ones that came up for me was just this idea that I was not a good parent and therefore I didn't deserve to be parenting my kids. And one of my fantasies when I was really struggling was that I'd sort of inventory all the people I knew who were better than I was at parenting and think maybe my child would be better off with them. How do I ask them to parent my child for me? And that's a sign for me. Of course, that's not a real thing that I would act on, but it was a sign for me that I was really struggling, that I couldn't, the weight of these parenting challenges felt so heavy that I really couldn't hold them anymore. And giving my children to someone else actually seemed like a viable solution in my own mind. At the heart of all these, I think, is this unwillingness to sit with our own big emotions and knowing how normal they are, right? So as this anger and resentment and fear and inadequacy flow through us, we really latch onto them and we have a story that they tap straight down into that shame story. So we can't just let it flow through, because the minute that emotion shows up on the scene, we're going to anchor it in our shame story and it's going to become evidence that adds into this failure story or inadequacy story. And then another storm comes through and we anchor it in and we pile it on. And this toxic shame, which is not guilt, right? Guilt is about, oops, I made a mistake. I feel terrible. Let me repair. And then it's done. Shame is tied into our worthiness. It's tied into our enoughness. It's tied into our healthy sense of self, or unhealthy sense of self, as the case may be, if you have a really big pile on going. So I ask you to really be okay, lean into, and get comfortable with writing about, talking about your shame story. And sometimes that means just starting a list in the back page of your journal or on a notebook, shame story. And then anytime something comes to the surface and you're going to tell yourself, I want to start paying attention to the stories, the narratives in my shame spiral. You're going to notice, it's going to come up for you, and you're going to add something else to the list. And we're going to dredge all that up at the start of this process. We want to shine a light on these shame stories that we purposely keep in the dark because we don't want to see them. We don't want to deal with them. We don't want to find out where they're from. We don't want to confront them. We feel very alone with our shame stories. But there's something beautiful about bringing them up and talking about them, right? When we shine a light on them, they become a little bit safer to sit with. So your first homework challenge is to dig up some of these shame stories. And when I started digging into mine, I was like, wow, no wonder we're struggling, mama. There is so much here. So much here. And what I want you to recognize as you pull all these things up out of the darkness is that many of these shame stories are not yours to carry. You did not create them, you inherited them. Okay? And you don't need to know who, and you definitely don't need to blame anyone for giving you their shame story. At some point in your childhood or your young adulthood or your career, you adopted and latched on to the shame story. And that's your responsibility. And part of taking responsibility of that shame story is doing the work to let it go. So if we continue to pin this shame story on someone else, and that was my favorite coping mechanism, right? I felt like a victim. I really fell into that victim mode. And as a victim, it's really hard to show up to do the work. There's never the time. It's never your responsibility. You wish that someone else hadn't done these things to you so that you could be healthy and free. But we're letting go of that. We're taking responsibility. We're acknowledging that at some point we chose to adopt the shame story, and we can also choose to change the thoughts that led to the belief of this shame spiral that we're rooted in. So the first aspect of letting this go is to remind yourself that it's safe to feel all these big feelings as they flow through you. It's safe to feel my anger. It's safe to feel my resentment. It's safe to feel my pain and sadness and injustice and loneliness and fear. It is safe to feel all of these feelings. And then the next challenge is to tell yourself, I deserve to feel parenting ease. So as a parent, I deserve to feel ease. As a parent, I deserve to feel deep, meaningful connection with my loved ones. I deserve to feel joy as a parent. Laughter, silliness, I love the idea of joy because when you are joyful, you can let down your walls. Allow yourself to really tap in to this source of light, joy, ease, connection. Many of us struggle to shift our shame story because we believe we deserve the weight, the guilt, the darkness, the pain. We're really struggling to step in our worthiness, our power, and the fact that we deserve ease. And if you don't believe that about yourself, then it doesn't matter how many books you read. It doesn't matter how many coaching sessions you pencil into your calendar and show up for. It doesn't matter how much work you do. You will never allow yourself the freedom to sever that tie with your shame story. And what I want for you in the future is to come back to that Pima Chodron quote, right? You're the sky, everything else, it's just the weather. I want you to feel the joyful, easeful, connected to all that is sky as your baseline. That is your anchor. And when the weather comes through, you just let it flow. You know those feelings are safe. You breathe them in, you sit with them, you think, what do I need in this situation? How can I support myself? You make a request if you need to. But it keeps flowing. You don't have to hold on to it and anchor into this shame. You cut that line and you let it go. And then another weather system comes through because you're human and this is life, right? That's going to happen. It doesn't matter how many parenting books you read or how patient you are, big feelings going to happen. And they are safe to feel. Your child's big feelings are safe. Yours, your partners, your parents, your coworkers. The big feelings are safe to feel and they're going to flow through. And you're going to be able to stay grounded in your worthiness. The fact that you deserve ease, connection, and freedom. Tap into, anchor into, tie your boat up to that instead of the opposite. I deserve this pain. I deserve this darkness. I deserve these challenges because I'm not worthy. That is a story that you chose to believe. That is not true. Let it go. That's easier said than done, right? Do the work to change your thoughts and really start believing the alternative, which is, I'm a human deserving of joy, connection, and ease, who definitely makes mistakes. I definitely wake up feeling tired. I definitely have moments of loneliness. I definitely need to turn to others and make requests for support so that I can feel better. That's normal. That's part of being human. Nothing to be ashamed of. Okay, I want to hear your shame story. So please mark in your calendar our next meeting date. I have no idea when it is. I want to say it's the 22nd of March in the evening. So mark that in your calendar, 22nd of March. Let's show up and talk about how it's going to do this work on shame. Because this is related to everything in parenting. This is related to your triggers. This is related to your kids' tantrums. This is related to your ability to connect. This is related to our addictive or distractive personality habits and traits that we find ourselves falling into. And it's going to be really valuable to come together as a team and process this, to see each other and be seen. That's powerful medicine. So between now and then, you've got some homework. And in the comments of this video, I would love for you to share shame stories that are coming up for you. In fact, maybe I'll start a thread in the Facebook group. Shame, what's your shame story? And we're just going to see this list evolve as we notice. But noticing is the key. Do not be afraid to notice. When something comes up, know that you are not alone. There is another person in the room who has a shame story very similar to yours. Our histories, our lineage, our experiences all look very different, but the ways that we tie ourselves or anchor ourselves to shame are really very similar. You are not alone. You deserve ease, connection, joy. That's the new story I want you to believe. And you have to do the work to replace the old story. Okay, I love you. This is not easy, but it's good. It's good work. And we're going to do it together. We're just going to make it a little bit more fun. I love that when we meet up, we always find things to laugh about and cry about. That's healing.